A shy black teen revamps himself, winning prom with the school's beauty queen. Press like and subscribe to catch his epic transformation in our latest video. And stay for more. The hallways of Lincoln High School in a small Ohio town were a labyrinth of noise and movement, the walls plastered with posters for upcoming events, the air thick with the scent of cleaning solution and teenage energy. Jabari Okoye walked with his head down, his small, slender frame weaving through the crowd, his worn gray hoodie and faded jeans a muted contrast to the vibrant chaos around him, his short, curly hair barely visible beneath the hood, his dark brown eyes fixed on the floor, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his height barely reaching 5 feet 6 inches, his body thin and wiry, his quiet, shy demeanor a shield against the world. He was known for his reserved nature, his voice rarely rising above a whisper, his thoughts often lost in books or daydreams. But at Lincoln High, his introversion made him a target. His classmates, mostly white in this predominantly white town, saw his differences as a weakness. Jabari was often the smallest and darkest skinned in his class, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who thrived on exclusion. As he made his way to his locker, a group of students lingered nearby, their voices a low hum as they watched him. Ethan Marshall, a tall, athletic senior with short blonde hair and piercing green eyes, led the pack. His friends, a mix of popular boys, all white, all towering over Jabari, their laughter a constant assault. "Look at him," Ethan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Jabari to hear. "The little nerd thinks he belongs here." What a joke. Jabari's heart sank, his hands trembling as he fumbled with his locker combination. He tried to focus on his task, his silence a quiet defiance, but Ethan's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. "He's so scrawny," Ethan continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to do? Hide in his books all day?" His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Jabari's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Ethan he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to his locker, his heart aching. He just wanted to be left alone, to exist in peace. But Ethan wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "Where'd you even get that hoodie?" he said, his tone sharp. "Did you steal it from a kid's store? It's pathetic." Jabari's throat tightened, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm just trying to get to class," he said, his words a quiet plea. "I'm not bothering anyone." Ethan's laugh was loud, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Bothering?" he said, his tone mocking. You're a bother just by being here. You don't belong with us." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and scorn. One of the boys, a stocky kid named Ryan, stepped closer. "Yeah, go back to where you came from," he said, his tone sharp. "You're not one of us." The other students in the hallway glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to get to class," a girl in a cheerleader uniform murmured. "They're being awful to him," her friend replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on Jabari's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his quiet nature a double-edged sword. It was his comfort, his escape, but it also made him a target. The hallway was Jabari's daily gauntlet, a place where he longed to belong. But even here, he wasn't safe. Ethan's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they closed in. Ryan grabbed a nearby textbook, Jabari's, and tossed it down the hall, the pages fluttering as it hit the floor. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to chase that now." Jabari's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's mine," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "Give it back!" Ryan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Ethan smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said. "He's too small, Too weak, he doesn't belong here. The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. One of the other boys, a lanky kid named Dylan, pushed Jabari's shoulder. Get out, he said, his tone a command. You're not welcome here. Jabari stumbled back, his heart racing. I belong here just as much as you do, he said, his voice steady. I'm not going anywhere. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. Oh, really? He said, his voice a challenge. Prove it. Then let's see if you've got any guts. The group laughed, their voices a chorus of contempt. Dylan took a marker and scribbled loser on Jabari's locker. There, man, he said, his tone mocking. Now everyone knows what you are. The other students in the hallway continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. He's just trying to get by. A boy in a track uniform murmured. They're going too far, his friend replied, but no one intervened. Jabari felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his quiet resilience, his dreams, the flicker of hope that kept him going. He had a secret. He liked a girl, a white girl named Lily, her beauty and kindness a beacon in his lonely world. Maybe one day, he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a hope that gave him strength. The tension in the hallway was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ethan's malice. Jabari's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. Yes, and the courtyard of Lincoln High School was a vibrant hub of activity during lunch hour. The late spring sun casting dappled shadows through the oak trees, the air filled with the scent of freshly cut grass, and the chatter of students gathered in small groups. Jabari Okoye stood near a secluded bench, his small, slender frame tense with a nervous energy, his worn gray hoodie and faded jeans a muted contrast to the bright day, his short, curly hair barely visible beneath the hood. His dark brown eyes fixed on a girl across the courtyard, Lily Thompson, a white junior with long auburn hair and soft green eyes. Her laughter a melody that had captured Jabari's heart. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his height barely reaching 5 feet 6 inches, his body thin and wiry, his quiet, shy demeanor a shield against the daily slights he endured. He had always been an outsider at Lincoln High, a predominantly white school in a small Ohio town. His classmates often mocked his introversion, but Lily was different, or so he thought. She was kind, her smile warm, her presence a rare light in his world of isolation. Jabari had spent weeks working up the courage to confess his feelings, his heart racing as he clutched a small, handwritten note. I like you, Lily, it read, his handwriting shaky but sincere. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling as he approached her, his voice barely a whisper. Lily, he said, his tone soft. Can I talk to you for a second? Lily turned, her green eyes meeting his, her smile polite but curious. Sure, Jabari, she said, her voice gentle. Her friends, a group of white girls, giggled nearby, their eyes watching with interest. Jabari's heart pounded, his hands trembling as he handed her the note. I wrote this for you, he said, his voice quivering. I really like you, and I was wondering if you'd go out with me. The courtyard seemed to fall silent, the chatter fading as all eyes turned to them. Lily's smile faltered, her hands unfolding the note, her expression shifting to one of discomfort. Jabari, she said, her voice cold now, her tone abrupt. You think I'd go out with someone like you? You're not my type. Her friends burst into laughter, their voices a chorus of scorn. Jabari's heart sank, his hands trembling. I just thought, he began, his voice breaking, but Lily cut him off, her voice louder now. Thought what? She said, her tone mocking. That I'd date a scrawny little nobody like you? Get real. The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and cruelty. Ethan Marshall, who had been watching from a nearby table, strode over, his tall, athletic frame looming over Jabari, his blonde hair catching the sunlight, his green eyes glinting with malice. "What's this? Nerd?" he said, his voice sharp. "You think you have got a shot with Lily? You don't belong here. Stick to your books." The crowd laughed, their voices a relentless assault. Jabari's cheeks burned, his hands trembling as he took a step back. "I didn't mean to," he said, his voice barely a whisper. But Ethan grabbed the note from Lily's hand, crumpling it and tossing it at Jabari's feet. "Take your stupid note and get lost," he said, his tone sharp. "No one wants you here." Lily smirked, her voice cold. "Yeah, Jabari," she said, her tone mocking. "Don't embarrass yourself. Stay in your lane." Her friends laughed, their voices a mix of amusement and contempt. The other students in the courtyard glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "That was harsh," a girl in a volleyball uniform murmured. "He didn't deserve that," her friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on Jabari's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his quiet affection a double-edged sword. It was his hope, his dream, but it had also made him a target. The courtyard was Jabari's crucible, a place where he longed to belong, but now it was a stage of humiliation. Ethan's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they closed in. Ryan, a stocky boy with a cruel grin, grabbed a nearby soda can and shook it, spraying the fizzy liquid onto Jabari's hoodie. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to go to class all wet now." Jabari wiped the soda from his face, his hands trembling, his voice a quiet defiance. "I'm not a nobody." "No," he said, his words a quiet promise. "I'll show you." Ethan's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. "Show us," he said, his voice mocking. You're nothing. You'll always be nothing." The group laughed, their voices a chorus of contempt. Dylan, a lanky boy with a sneer, pushed Jabari's shoulder. "Get lost, nerd," he said, his tone a command. "You're not welcome here." Jabari stumbled back, his heart racing. "I belong here just as much as you do," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not giving up." Ethan's laugh was loud, his voice a mix of amusement and malice. "Give up?" he said, his tone cold. "You never had a chance. Go cry somewhere else." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. The other students in the courtyard continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to be brave," a boy in a track uniform murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied, but no one intervened. Jabari felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape. His shame a heavy burden, but he held on to a flicker of resolve. The sting of Lily's rejection a searing pain, but also a spark. He would change. He would prove them wrong, not for her, but for himself. The tension in the courtyard was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ethan's malice. Jabari's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how he'd endure this, how he'd rise above the humiliation, but he knew a moment of transformation was coming. A moment that would push him to his breaking point. A moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The gymnasium at Lincoln High School was a sanctuary of determination amidst Jabari Okoye's storm of humiliation. The late afternoon light filtering through the high windows, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floor. The air filled with the metallic clank of weights and the steady hum of exertion. Jabari stood near a squat rack, his small, slender frame a stark contrast to the heavy equipment around him. His worn gray hoodie swapped for a black tank top. His faded jeans replaced with gym shorts. His short, curly hair damp with sweat. His dark brown eyes burning with a quiet resolve. His hands gripped a light barbell, his movements deliberate in as he began his first ever gym session. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his height barely reaching 5 feet 6 inches, his body thin and wiry from years of neglect. But the sting of Lily's rejection and Ethan's taunts had ignited a fire within him. He was no longer content to be the shy, invisible boy. He wanted to change, to become someone stronger, someone who belonged. But at Lincoln High, his new pursuit was met with the same cruelty he had always known. His classmates, mostly white in this small Ohio town, saw his efforts as a joke. As he adjusted the weights, a group of students lingered near the weight racks, their voices a low hum as they watched him. Ethan Marshall, the leader of the pack, stood with his arms crossed, his short blonde hair catching the light, his piercing green eyes glinting with malice. His friends, Ryan, Dylan, and another boy named Caleb, flanked him, their laughter a constant assault. "Look at him," Ethan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Jabari to hear. "The nerd thinks he's a gym rat now. What a joke." Jabari's heart pounded, his hands trembling as he lifted the barbell. He tried to focus on his form, his determination a quiet defiance. But Ethan's voice cut through his concentration like a dagger. "He's so pathetic," Ethan continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to lift? A feather? He doesn't belong here." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Jabari's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Ethan he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to his lift, his heart aching. He just wanted to grow stronger in peace. But Ethan wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "You think a few push-ups will make you less of a loser?" he said, his tone sharp. "You'll never be anything. You're nothing." Jabari's throat tightened, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm trying to get better," he said, his words a quiet plea. "I'm not hurting anyone." Ethan's laugh was loud, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Better?" he said, his tone mocking. You'll always be the scrawny kid who got rejected by Lily. Everyone knows it." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and scorn. The tension escalated as Ethan's group grew bolder, their actions more aggressive. Ryan stepped closer. "Hey, Jabari," he called, his voice sharp. He grabbed a nearby water bottle, Jabari's, and poured it onto the floor, creating a slick puddle near the squat rack. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to lift on a wet floor now." Jabari's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's mine," he said, his voice steady despite the rising panic. "Stop it!" Ryan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Ethan smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said. "He's too small, too weak. He doesn't belong here." The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. Dylan, the lanky boy, grabbed a light dumbbell from the rack and tossed it toward Jabari, the metal clattering to the floor just inches from his feet. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to lift that first." Jabari stumbled back, his heart racing. "Stop it," he shouted, his voice breaking with frustration. "I'm just trying to train." "Dumb," Ethan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and malice. "Train," he said, his tone icy. "You're wasting our space. You're a joke." The group tightened their circle around Jabari, their voices a chorus of mockery. "He's going to cry," Caleb said, his tone mocking. "Look at the baby," Dylan added. The other students in the gym glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to get stronger," a girl in a track uniform murmured. "They're going too far," her friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Jabari's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his pursuit of strength a double-edged sword. It was his hope, his escape, but it also made him a target. The gym had become Jabari's battleground, a place where he sought to rebuild himself. But even here, he wasn't safe. Ethan's group grew even bolder, their actions escalating as they surrounded Jabari. Caleb grabbed a nearby towel and wiped it across the wet floor, then tossed it onto Jabari's barbell. "There," he said. "See y'all? There," he said, his tone mocking. "Now your weights are all dirty. Good luck lifting that. Jabari wiped the towel off, his hands trembling, his voice a quiet defiance. I'm not giving up, he said, his words a quiet promise. I belong here. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. You'll never belong, he snarled, his voice cold. You're a nobody, and we'll make sure you stay that way. Wow, the group laughed, their voices a chorus of contempt. The other students in the gym continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. He's just trying to change, a boy in a soccer jersey murmured. They're going too far, his friend replied, but no one intervened. Jabari felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his resolve. The pain of Lily's rejection a searing memory, but also a spark he would change. He would prove them wrong, not for her, but for himself. The tension in the gym was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ethan's malice. Jabari's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take, but he knew a moment of transformation was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. Also, the weight room at the Lincoln High School had become Jabari Okoye's refuge, a place of transformation amidst the echoes of his past humiliation, the late afternoon light streaming through the high windows, casting a golden hue over the rows of equipment, the air filled with the steady rhythm of clanking weights and the scent of determination. Jabari stood near a bench press, his small frame now showing the faint outline of muscle beneath his black tank top. His gym shorts a practical choice for his daily routine, his short, curly hair damp with sweat, his dark brown eyes focused as he adjusted the weights. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his height still a modest 5 feet 6 inches, but his body was slowly changing, his wiry frame gaining definition from months of relentless training. His quiet, shy demeanor had evolved into a focused determination. The sting of Lily's rejection and Ethan's taunts a constant fuel for his journey. But at Lincoln High, his efforts were still met with skepticism. His classmates, mostly white in this small Ohio town, continued to see him as an outsider. As he prepared for his set, a familiar figure approached, Amelia Harper, the school's most admired senior, a white girl with long golden hair and striking blue eyes, her presence a quiet grace that turned heads. Her cheerleading uniform, a symbol of her status as the school's prom queen and the object of every boy's admiration. Amelia was known for her beauty, but also for her kindness, a rarity in a school where popularity often bred cruelty. Hey, Jabari, she said, her voice soft but warm, her smile genuine as she stopped beside him. Jabari's heart raced, his hands trembling as he set down the barbell. Hi, Amelia, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, his shyness resurfacing in her presence. He had always admired her from afar, her kindness a beacon in his lonely world. But he never imagined she'd notice him. Amelia's eyes softened, her voice gentle. I've seen you here every day, she said, her tone encouraging. You're working so hard. I'm impressed. Jabari's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. Thanks, he said, his voice steady but shy. I'm trying to get stronger. Amelia nodded, her smile warm. I heard what happened with Lily, she said, her tone soft. That was really harsh. I'm sorry you went through that. Jabari's heart sank, the memory of Lily's rejection a searing pain. It hurt, he admitted, his voice breaking. But I'm not giving up. I want to be better. Amelia's eyes shone with admiration, her voice warm. You're already better, she said, her tone sincere. Not because of how you look, but because of how you keep going. You've got heart, Jabari. That's what matters. Jabari's heart soared, his eyes glistening with emotion. Thanks, Amelia, he said, his voice steady. That means a lot. Her words were a lifeline, a spark of encouragement that reignited his resolve. Amelia smiled, her voice playful. Keep it up, she said. I'll be rooting for you, Haidun. She turned to leave, her cheerleading practice calling. but her kindness lingered, a quiet warmth that fueled Jabari's determination. The gym was Jabari's battleground, a place where he sought to rebuild himself. But even here, he wasn't free from cruelty. Ethan Marshall and his group were present, their voices a dark undercurrent as they watched from the weight racks. "Look at him," Ethan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Jabari to hear. "The nerd thinks he's a bodybuilder. Now, what a joke." Jabari's heart raced, his hands trembling as he continued his set. He tried to focus on Amelia's words, her encouragement a shield against their taunts. But Ethan's voice cut through. "He's still a nobody," Ethan continued, his tone mocking. "No amount of lifting will change that." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Ryan stepped closer. "Hey, Jabari," he called, his voice sharp. He grabbed a nearby towel and tossed it onto Jabari's barbell. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to lift with that now." Jabari's hands trembled, his voice a quiet defiance. "I'm not stopping," he said, his words a quiet promise. "I belong here." Ethan's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. "You'll never belong," he snarled, his voice cold. "You're a loser, and you'll always be a loser." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. The other students in the gym glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's working so hard," a girl in a track uniform murmured. "They're going too far," her friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Jabari's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, but Amelia's words echoed in his mind. "You've got heart," a mantra that gave him strength. Jabari pushed through his set, his small frame trembling with effort, his determination unyielding. He began a strict regimen, lifting weights, eating healthier, studying fitness routines online. He woke up early to jog, stayed late at the gym to train, his body slowly changing, his arms gaining definition, his shoulders broadening, his confidence growing with each small victory. Amelia's encouragement became a beacon, her occasional smiles in the hallway a quiet support. "You're looking stronger," she'd say, her voice warm. Jabari would blush, his voice steady. "Thanks, Amelia," he'd reply, her kindness a fuel for his journey. The tension in the gym was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ethan's malice. But Jabari's heart raced with a new resolve, his mind focused. He didn't know how much longer he could endure their taunts, but he knew a moment of transformation was coming. A moment that would push him to his breaking point. A moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. But see, the gymnasium at Lincoln High School had been transformed into a dazzling wonderland for the senior prom, the ceiling draped with twinkling fairy lights, the walls adorned with shimmering silver and gold streamers, the air filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft melody of a live band. Jabari Okoye stood at the entrance, his small frame now a striking vision of confidence, his once wiry body now sculpted with lean muscle, his tailored black tuxedo fitting him like a second skin, the crisp white shirt, silvered tie accentuating his newfound presence, his short, curly hair neatly styled, his dark brown eyes gleaming with a quiet pride. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his height still a modest 5 feet 6 inches. But months of relentless training had transformed him into a handsome, muscular young man, his shy demeanor replaced by a steady confidence, the sting of Lily's rejection a distant memory. Tonight was his senior prom, a celebration of his coming of age, and he was ready to make an entrance. By his side stood Amelia Harper, the school's prom queen and the most beautiful girl in Lincoln High, her long golden hair cascading in waves, her striking blue eyes sparkling with warmth, her silver gown a glamorous masterpiece that hugged her curves, its shimmering fabric catching the light as she moved. Amelia was the object of every boy's dreams, her grace and kindness a rare combination. The crowd parted as they entered, their voices a mix of gasps and whispers. "Who's that with Amelia?" a girl in a pink dress whispered. "That's Jabari?" her friend replied, their eyes wide with shock. Ethan Marshall and his group stood near the dance floor, their faces frozen in disbelief. Ethan's blonde hair slicked back for the occasion, his green eyes narrowing with a mix of envy and shock. No way, he muttered, his voice sharp. That can't be the nerd. His friends, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, gaped, their tuxedos no match for the jealousy in their expressions. How did he get Amelia? Ryan hissed. She's out of his league, Dylan added. The crowd's whispers grew louder, their voices a mix of awe and disbelief. He looks amazing, a girl in a blue gown murmured. I can't believe it's Jabari. Yeah, her friend replied. Jabari and Amelia stepped onto the dance floor, their movements graceful as the band played a slow, romantic melody. Amelia's hand rested lightly on Jabari's shoulder, her smile warm as she looked into his eyes. You look incredible, she said, her voice soft. Jabari's heart soared, his voice steady. Thanks, Amelia, he said, his tone warm. I couldn't have done this without you. The crowd watched, their eyes locked on the couple. Jabari's transformation a stunning revelation, his once scrawny frame now a testament to months of hard work, early morning runs, late-night gym sessions, a strict diet of protein and discipline, his arms now defined with muscle, his shoulders broad, his confidence a quiet strength. But the whispers turned to murmurs of envy as Ethan's group approached, their faces twisted with resentment. What's this, nerd? Ethan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for the crowd to hear. You think a few muscles make you one of us? You don't belong here. Jabari's heart raced, his hand steady as he turned to face Ethan. I belong here, he said, his voice firm. And I'm not the same kid you used to push around. Amelia's grip on his arm tightened, her voice calm but fierce. Leave him alone. Ethan, she said, her tone sharp. He's more of a man than you'll ever be. The crowd gasped, their voices a mix of shock and support. She's right. A boy in a tuxedo shouted, Jabari's a legend, his friend replied. Ethan's face turned red, his hands clenching into fists. You're nothing, he snarled, his voice a mix of rage and jealousy. You'll always be nothing, Amelia. You're wasting your time with him. But Amelia's eyes never left Jabari, her voice steady. I'm exactly where I want to be, she said, her tone unwavering. The crowd cheered, their voices a wave of support. They're perfect together. A girl in a red dress shouted, Ethan's just jealous. Ah, her friend replied. Jabari and Amelia continued their dance, their movements a graceful defiance, the band's melody swelling as they moved in sync. Jabari's heart soared, his mind clear. He had transformed not just his body, but his spirit. The shy, quiet boy who had once hidden in the shadows was now a confident young man, his journey a testament to his resilience. Amelia's encouragement had been his lifeline, her small acts of kindness, her smiles in the hallway. Her words of support in the gym had given him the strength to keep going. You've got heart, she'd said, and those words had carried him through every grueling workout, every moment of doubt. The crowd's cheers washed over them, their voices a testament to Jabari's triumph. Ethan and his group stood on the sidelines, their faces a mix of envy and defeat. He doesn't deserve her, Ryan muttered, his voice sharp, but Caleb shook his head. He earned it, he said, his tone grudging. The tension in the gymnasium was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Jabari's victory. His heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. He had faced his past, faced his tormentors, and now he stood tall, a young man who belonged, not because of his body, but because of his heart. A moment of transformation had arrived, a moment that would change everything, a moment that showed the world he was more than enough. Up in the glittering atmosphere of Lincoln High School's prom night lingered in the air. the gymnasium's fairy lights twinkling like stars, the soft hum of the band's music fading into a gentle background melody. Jabari Okoye and Amelia Harper stood near the edge of the dance floor, their hands still intertwined from their earlier dance. His sleek black tuxedo a testament to his transformation. His short, curly hair neatly styled, his dark brown eyes reflecting a mix of pride and disbelief. Amelia's silver gown shimmered under the lights, her golden hair cascading in waves, her blue eyes warm with admiration as she looked at him. The crowd around them buzzed with whispers, their voices a mix of awe and curiosity after Jabari's stunning entrance with the school's prom queen. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his once wiry frame now sculpted with lean muscle. His journey from a shy, bullied outsider to a confident young man, a story that had captivated the school. But the night was far from over, and the truth behind his connection with Amelia was about to come to light. Ethan Marshall and his group lingered nearby, their faces twisted with envy. Ethan's blonde hair slicked back, his green eyes burning with resentment. "This is a joke," he muttered, his voice sharp. "She's just with him for attention. He's still a nobody." Ryan nodded, his voice bitter. "Yeah, he doesn't deserve her," he said, his tone mocking. "She'll ditch him by the end of the night." Well, the crowd's whispers grew louder, their voices a mix of support and skepticism. "They look perfect together," a girl in a blue gown murmured. "But why him?" her friend replied. Jabari felt their stares, a weight he was familiar with, but Amelia's presence grounded him, her hand squeezing his gently. "Don't listen to them," she said, her voice soft but firm, her tone warm. "You belong here, with me." Jabari's heart raced, his voice steady. "Thanks, Amelia," he said, his tone warm. "I still can't believe you're here with me." Amelia smiled, her eyes shining. "I wouldn't be anywhere else," she said, her tone sincere. The band struck up New Song, a slow, romantic ballad, and Amelia tugged Jabari back onto the dance floor, their movements graceful as they swayed to the music, the crowd watching in rapt attention. But Ethan's voice cut through the moment, his tone sharp. "Hey, Amelia!" he called, his voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Why are you wasting your time with him? You could have any guy here. What's so special about this loser?" The crowd fell silent, their eyes turning to Amelia. Jabari's heart sank, his hands trembling. But Amelia's grip on him tightened, her voice calm but fierce. "You want to know why?" "Ethan," she said, her tone sharp, her voice carrying across the gym. "Because Jabari is more than you'll ever be. He's got heart. He's got brains. And he's got a kindness you'll never understand." The crowd gasped, their voices a mix of shock and admiration. "She's telling him off," a boy in a tuxedo whispered. "She's amazing," his friend replied. Ethan's face turned red, his hands clenching into fists. "Kindness?" he snarled, his voice a mix of rage and disbelief. "He's a nerd who got lucky with a gym membership. He's still nothing." Amelia's eyes flashed, her voice steady. "You're wrong," she said, her tone unwavering. "I've watched him for months after Lily humiliated him, after you and your friends made his life hell. He didn't break. He worked harder than anyone I've ever seen. He changed himself, not because he had to, but because he wanted to be better. That's strength. That's what I love about him." The crowd erupted, their cheers a wave of support. "She loves him," a girl in a red dress shouted. "They're perfect," her friend replied. Jabari's heart soared, his eyes glistening with emotion. You love me?" he said, his voice breaking with awe. Amelia turned to him, her smile radiant. "Yes, Jabari," she said, her tone soft. "I love you, not for your muscles, but for your heart, your mind, your kindness. You're the most incredible person I know." The crowd cheered louder, their voices a testament to their connection. "They're amazing," a boy in a soccer jersey shouted. "Ethan got shut down," his friend replied. Ethan's face turned ashen, his hands trembling. This isn't fair." he stammered, his voice quivering. But Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. Let it go. Man, he said, his tone grudging. They've got something real. The crowd parted as Jabari and Amelia danced again, their movements a celebration of their bond. The band's music swelling as they moved in sync. Jabari's heart soared, his mind clear. He had transformed not just his body, but his spirit. The shy, quiet boy who had once hidden in the shadows was now a confident young man. Amelia's love a revelation that filled him with joy. Her encouragement had been his lifeline, her smiles in the gym, her words of support after his rejection, her belief in him when no one else had. You've got heart, she'd said, and those words had carried him through every grueling workout, every moment of doubt. The crowd's cheers washed over them, their voices a testament to Jabari's triumph. Ethan and his group stood on the sidelines, their faces a mix of envy and defeat. He doesn't deserve her, Dylan muttered, his voice sharp, but Caleb shook his head. He earned her, he said, his tone grudging. The tension in the gymnasium had shifted, the air now thick with the weight of Jabari's victory. His heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. He had faced his past, faced his tormentors, and now he stood tall, a young man who belonged, not because of his body, but because of his heart. A moment of love had arrived, a moment that would change everything, a moment that showed the world he was more than enough. The classroom at Lincoln High School was bathed in the soft glow of morning light, its walls adorned with student artwork and inspirational quotes. The air filled with the quiet hum of focused energy as students prepared for their final exams. Jabari Okoye sat at his desk near the window, his once slender frame now a balanced mix of muscle and poise, his black polo shirt and khaki pants a sharp contrast to the worn hoodies he used to hide in, his short, curly hair neatly trimmed, his dark brown eyes radiating a quiet confidence that had grown since the prom. A notebook opened before him, filled with notes and sketches of his future goals. Jabari was a 17-year-old junior of African descent, his journey from a shy, bullied outsider to a respected figure at Lincoln High, a testament to his resilience. The prom night had been a turning point. His entrance with Amelia Harper, the school's prom queen, a moment that had shifted the school's perception of him. His transformation, both physical and emotional, had earned him a new place in the community. As he reviewed his notes, a familiar voice called out, "Hey, Jabari!" Amelia said, her tone warm, her golden hair catching the light as she approached, her blue eyes sparkling with affection, her cheerleading sweater a symbol of her unchanged status, but her smile a reflection of their deepening bond. Jabari's heart raced, his voice steady. "Hey, Amelia," he replied, his tone warm. "How's my favorite study partner?" Amelia laughed, her voice a melody. "Better now that I'm here," she said, her tone playful. She sat beside him, her presence a comfort. Their relationship a source of strength. The school had changed since prom, the anti-bullying initiative sparked by Jabari's story fostering a culture of acceptance. Ethan and his group had quieted, their once constant taunts replaced by grudging respect. "You're not so bad, Okoye," Ethan had muttered one day, his tone reluctant. Jabari had nodded. "Thanks," he'd replied, his voice steady. The moment a small victory, Jabari's confidence had blossomed. His once shy demeanor now a quiet assurance. He became a leader in his own way, joining the school's peer mentorship program. "You've got a gift for helping people," a teacher had said, her tone encouraging. Jabari smiled. "I just want to give back," he replied, his tone steady. He mentored younger students, many of whom faced the same struggles he had. "You're stronger than you think," he'd tell them, his voice warm. "Don't let anyone make you feel small." His words resonated, the students looking up to him with admiration. "You make me believe I can do it," a freshman named Malik said, his voice soft. Jabari nodded. "You will," he replied, his tone steady. His influence spread beyond the program. Students who had once ignored him now sought his advice. "You changed everything," a girl in a track uniform said, her voice trembling. "I thought I'd never fit in, but you showed me I can." Jabari listened, his heart full. "You already fit in," he said. "You just needed to see it." The school continued to evolve, the anti-bullying initiatives fostering a sense of community. Jabari organized a Strength and Diversity event, a day of workshops and activities to celebrate differences. The gym packed with students and teachers. "We're better when we're together," Jabari said in his opening speech, his voice echoing through the space. The crowd cheered, their voices a testament to his impact. Amelia watched from the sidelines, her eyes shining with pride. "You're amazing," she said, her voice warm. Jabari smiled. "We're amazing, well," he replied, his tone steady. Their relationship had deepened, their bond a blend of friendship and love. Amelia's support a constant light. "You make me better," she'd say, her voice soft. Jabari would blush. "You make me brave," he'd reply, his tone warm. They studied together, trained together, and dreamed together, their connection a source of joy. Jabari's transformation had also earned him new friends. Carlos, a teammate from the track team, became a close confidant. "You're a beast, man," he'd say, his voice warm. Jabari laughed. "I'm just me," he'd reply, his tone steady. His social circle grew, his once lonely days now filled with laughter and support. "You've changed the school," a teacher said, her voice warm. Jabari nodded. "I just wanted to change myself," he replied, his tone steady. His confidence was a shield, but also a bridge. He joined the school newspaper, writing articles about diversity and resilience. "Your words matter," the editor said, her tone encouraging. Jabari smiled. "I'm learning that," he replied, his tone steady. His journey had taught him his own worth, his value not in his body, but in his heart, his mind, his ability to rise above. The tension that had once defined Lincoln High was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Jabari's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more dreams to chase. But he was ready to face them with the strength he'd built, the strength that had carried him from a place of rejection to a position of leadership. A moment of empowerment had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. Born on the sunlit stage of Lincoln High School's graduation ceremony was a beacon of celebration, its podium adorned with the school's colors of blue and gold, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the joyous hum of families gathered in the stands. Jabari Okoye stood among his classmates, his cap and gown a symbol of his journey's culmination, his once slender frame now a balanced mix of muscle and poise, his dark brown eyes shining with a radiant pride that had grown through years of perseverance, his short, curly hair peeking out from beneath his cap, a wide smile spreading across his face as he accepted his diploma. Jabari was now 18, a graduate of African descent, his journey from a shy, bullied outsider to a confident leader, a story that had inspired his entire school. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers a testament to his impact. Amelia Harper sat in the front row, her golden hair glowing in the sunlight, her blue eyes glistening with tears of joy, her elegant summer dress a soft contrast to her vibrant smile. She clapped the loudest, her voice ringing out. "That's my Jabari!" Her tone a mix of love and pride. Jabari waved to her, his heart soaring, their relationship a cornerstone of his growth. As he stepped off the stage, his classmates surrounded him, their voices a chorus of congratulations. "You did it, man!" Carlos, his friend from the track team, said, his tone warm. "You're a legend," a girl from the newspaper staff added, her voice bright. Jabari smiled. "We did it together," he replied, his tone steady. His journey had been marked by transformation, not just physical, but emotional. The prom night where he'd appeared with Amelia had been a turning point. His once scrawny body now a testament to months of hard work. But it was his inner growth that truly defined him. Amelia's love had shown him his worth. "You've got heart," she'd said, and those words had carried him through every challenge. Jabari had become a leader at Lincoln High. His strength in diversity event a lasting legacy. The school's culture of kindness now a model for others. He had mentored countless students, helping them find their own strength. "You changed my life," a freshman named Malik told him after graduation. His voice soft. Jabari nodded. "You changed mine too," he replied. His tone warm. His influence had spread beyond the school. He started a blog, Rise Above, sharing his story of overcoming bullying and racism. His post went viral. "Your story gives me hope," a reader commented. "You're an inspiration." Another wrote. Jabari's heart soared with each message. His dream of making a difference now a reality. Amelia had been by his side through it all, their relationship deepening with each passing day. They had spent their senior year studying together, supporting each other's dreams. "You're my rock," she'd say, her voice soft. Jabari would smile. "You're my light," he'd reply, his tone warm. They had applied to colleges together, both accepted to a prestigious university in Chicago. "We'll take on the world," Amelia had said, her tone playful. Jabari had laughed. "Together, Kyo," he'd replied, his tone steady. Their love was a partnership, built on mutual respect and admiration. Amelia had loved him for his heart, his mind, his kindness. "You're the best person I know," she'd say, her voice sincere. Jabari had grown into that truth, his confidence a quiet strength. He had also pursued his passion for fitness, becoming a certified personal trainer. "You've got a gift," his mentor at the gym had said, his tone encouraging. Jabari nodded. "I want to help others get stronger," he replied, his tone steady. He started a youth fitness program, Fit for the Future, offering free training to kids from marginalized communities. "You don't have to be big to be strong," he'd tell them, his voice warm. The kids looked up to him, their eyes shining with admiration. "I want to be like you," a young girl said, her voice soft. Jabari smiled. "You'll be better," he replied, his tone steady. His work with the program earned him a community award. "You're a role model," the mayor said at the ceremony, her tone warm. Jabari accepted the award, his heart full. "I just want to give back," he replied, his tone steady. Years later, Jabari stood on the stage of a university commencement. A different audience, a different city, but the same message. "I was told I didn't belong," he said, his voice steady. "But I learned that belonging is about creating your own path, about lifting others up, about loving yourself, no matter the odds." The audience stood, their applause a testament to his impact. Jabari took a bow, his eyes shining with tears of joy. He felt powerful, unstoppable, a force. And as he stepped off the stage, Amelia waiting in the wings, her smile radiant, Jabari knew this was his destiny, that there would be more challenges, more dreams to chase, but he was ready, ready to face them with the strength he'd forged, the strength that had carried him from a school of rejection to a life of purpose. Jabari had turned his struggle into a legacy, his story into a movement, and in doing so, he had shown the world that he belonged, that he mattered, that he could inspire. Jabari overcame rejection, becoming a beacon of strength and love with Amelia by his side. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this journey, give a like, share with others, and subscribe with the bell on for more heartfelt stories of growth and triumph.